Shadows of betrayal. The trading station Helios Point hung in space like a tarnished coin, its once gleaming hull now dulled by decades of cosmic dust. For Theron and Naira, it represented their best chance at decoding the coordinates to the central Lumini archive. "I don't like this," Naira whispered from her hiding place in Theron's jacket collar. Her crystalline form was dimmed to its lowest glow, barely visible. "There's too many people. Too many ways this could go wrong." "Which is exactly why no one will look for us here," Theron murmured, making his way through the crowded marketplace. "My contact's a data specialist. If anyone can help us translate those ancient coordinates, it's her." The station's interior was a maze of merchant stalls and shadowy corridors. Beings from across the galaxy haggled over everything from fresh produce to questionably legal technology. The air was thick with the scents of alien spices and machine oil. They found Raven's shop tucked away in a quiet corner. The dark-skinned woman looked up from her computer array, her cybernetic eyes whirring as they focused on Theron. "Hayes," she said with a crooked smile. "Still chasing ancient mysteries?" "You know me, Raven. Can't resist a good puzzle." He glanced around the cluttered shop. "Got somewhere private we can talk?" She led them to a back room shielded from electronic surveillance. Only then did Naira emerge from hiding, her appearance drawing a low whistle from Raven. "Now that's interesting. A genuine Lumini. Thought your kind were extinct in this sector." "Nearly," Naira admitted. "Which is why we need your help. These coordinates." She projected a holographic sequence from her crystalline form. "They're encoded in a hybrid script. Ancient human mixed with Lumini data patterns." Raven studied the floating symbols, her cybernetic eyes rapidly processing the information. "Complex. But doable. Give me an hour." While they waited, Theron noticed Naira growing increasingly agitated. Her colors shifted through uncertain patterns, and she kept scanning the room's shadows. "Something wrong?" "I'm not sure." She flew closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "There's something about this station. The energy patterns feel wrong." Before Theron could respond, Raven's computers chimed. "Got it," she announced. "The coordinates lead to a location in the Orpheus sector. Mostly uncharted space, but..." She frowned. "That's odd." "What is it?" Theron asked. "I'm picking up recent search patterns in the database. Someone else was looking for these same coordinates. Within the last hour." Naira's glow flared with alarm. "We need to leave. Now." The door burst open. Armed figures in black combat suits poured in, weapons trained on them. A tall woman in an elegant business suit followed, her smile as cold as space itself. "Director Voss," Raven spat. "Obsidian Syndicate. You said you were done with this station." "Plans change," Voss replied smoothly. "Especially when such valuable prizes present themselves." She turned to Theron and Naira. "The last Lumini guardian and her human protector. How touching." "You knew we'd come here," Theron realized. "You leaked information about Raven's skills, knowing we'd need a data specialist." "Of course. Much easier than chasing you across the galaxy." Voss's smile widened. "Now, hand over the heart crystal and the Lumini. Do so, and you might survive this encounter." "Raven," Theron said quietly. "Tell me you installed those defense systems we discussed last time." The data specialist grinned. "Better." She snapped her fingers, and the room's lights went out. Chaos erupted in the darkness. Theron felt Naira's tiny hand grab his ear, guiding him through the firefight. Her natural glow was completely dimmed, but she could still see perfectly. They emerged into the station's maintenance tunnels, alarms blaring behind them. "The ship," Theron panted. "We need to dash." "Too late," Naira interrupted. "They'll have it surrounded." But I have an idea. The station's power core, it's crystalline-based. I can interface with it, create a distraction. That's too dangerous. The radiation levels dash. Trust me, she said, and he heard the smile in her chiming voice. I learned from you, remember? Sometimes you have to take risks. They found the power core chamber unguarded. Everyone was too busy searching the main corridors. Naira flew to the massive crystal reactor, her form beginning to glow brighter than Theron had ever seen. Whatever happens, she said, I want you to know these past weeks have meant everything to me. You showed me that humans aren't just the destroyers from our ancient warnings. You're creators, dreamers, protectors. Naira dash. And you showed me that sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't in ancient temples, but in the connections we make. Before he could respond, she merged with the power core. Energy surged through the station. Lights flickered, gravity wavered, and security systems went haywire. In the chaos, they managed to fight their way back to the Stellar Seeker. But as they broke away from the station, Theron noticed Naira's usual glow was dangerously dim. The interface, it drained you. Worth it, she whispered, resting in his palm. But we need to hurry. The coordinates, they don't just lead to the central archive. They lead to the answer about why my people left Earth. Why we had to make humanity forget us. What do you mean? When I connected to the station's crystal matrix, I saw fragments, echoes of ancient data. Something's coming, Theron. Something that made the Lamini retreat eons ago. And now. Her voice faded as her strength ebbed. Now it's returning. The heart crystal pulsed with urgent energy as they set course for the Orpheus sector. Behind them, pursuit ships were already launching from Helios Point. But Theron barely noticed. His attention was focused on the weakened crystalline being in his hands, and the growing feeling that their quest had become far more than a search for historical truth. They were racing against time to prevent a catastrophe that had been 50,000 years in the making. And somewhere in the uncharted darkness ahead lay answers that could either save or destroy both their peoples. First contact in the ruins. The ancient temple's weathered stones groaned beneath Theron Hayes's boots as he carefully made his way through the crumbling corridor. His handheld scanner cast a pale blue glow across hieroglyphs that hadn't seen light in centuries. The air was thick with dust and mystery, exactly how he liked it. Another dead end, he muttered, brushing aside cobwebs. As an independent archaeological explorer, Theron had explored dozens of ruins across the galaxy, but this site on Meridian 6 was different. The architecture defied known classifications, combining organic curves with impossibly precise geometric patterns. A faint chime from his scanner drew his attention. Energy readings, barely detectable but definitely artificial. He adjusted the device's sensitivity, following the signal deeper into the temple complex. The passage narrowed, forcing him to turn sideways to squeeze through. The chamber he emerged into took his breath away. Crystal columns stretched toward a distant ceiling, each one pulsing with a subtle inner light. At the center stood a raised platform covered in intricate circuitry that somehow still functioned after millennia of abandonment. Theron approached carefully, mindful of structural instabilities. His scanner's readings were going haywire, detecting energy patterns it couldn't classify. As he studied the platform, movement caught his eye, a flash of crystalline light, dawn almost before he registered it. "Hello," he called out, immediately feeling foolish. Nothing had lived in these ruins for thousands of years. Yet there it was again, a shimmer of movement behind one of the columns. He moved closer, switching his scanner to biological detection mode. The readings made no sense, they suggested something alive but with a crystalline structure. Impossible. A tinkling sound like wind chimes drew his attention upward. There, perched on a crystal outcropping, was a being unlike anything he'd ever encountered. No more than 8 inches tall, its form seemed to be composed of living crystal, with delicate faceted limbs and a distinctly feminine shape. Iridescent wings like dragonfly wings made of light folded against its back. Their eyes met, his brown human ones and her multifaceted crystalline ones. She let out a musical cry of alarm and tried to flee, but her wing appeared damaged. She stumbled and began to fall. Without thinking, Theron lunged forward and caught her in his cupped hands. She was lighter than he expected, and warm to the touch. The tiny being trembled in his palms, radiating terror. "Please," she said in perfect standard, her voice like chimes in a gentle breeze, "I mean you no harm. Don't shatter me." Theron blinked in surprise. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "I'm an explorer, not a destroyer. I'm Theron Hayes." The crystalline being studied him for a long moment, her faceted eyes shifting through rainbow hues. "I am Naira," she finally said. "Last guardian of the Temple of Eternal Light." She tried to stand but winced. "Or I was, until the scavengers came." "Scavengers?" Theron's stomach tightened. He knew the type, criminals who stripped ancient sites of valuable artifacts, caring nothing for history or preservation. "They seek the heart crystal," Naira explained. "The source of our temple's power. I managed to hide it, but they—" She gestured to her damaged wing. "They were not pleased." Heavy footsteps and rough voices echoed from the passage Theron had entered through. Naira's crystalline form pulsed with fear. "They're coming back," she whispered. "You should run. They'll kill any witnesses." Theron carefully lifted her to eye level. "I have a better idea. Come with me. My ship's not far, and I have medical supplies that might help your wing." "You would help me?" Naira's voice held disbelief. "But I'm not even human. Human, crystalline, or tentacled blob, doesn't matter to me. I don't leave anyone at the mercy of scavengers." The footsteps were getting closer. "But we need to decide quickly." Naira looked toward the passage, then back at Theron's face. Something she saw there must have convinced her. "Very well," she said, carefully climbing onto his shoulder and gripping his collar for stability. "But we must take the heart crystal. If they find it, they'll destroy everything my people built." Theron nodded. "Where is it?" "There." She pointed to what he had thought was simply a decorative crystal formation. "Touch the third facet from the left." He did so, and a small compartment opened, revealing a crystal the size of his palm that pulsed with inner radiance. He quickly tucked it into his secure sample pouch. The voices were almost upon them. Theron spotted a narrow side passage half hidden behind a fallen column. "Hold on tight," he whispered to Naira. Then he was moving, using every trick he'd learned in years of ruin running to stay ahead of their pursuers. As they fled deeper into the temple's maze-like corridors, Theron realized this expedition had just become far more interesting than he'd anticipated. And somehow, he knew that helping this tiny crystalline being would change both their lives forever. The scavengers' shouts echoed behind them, but Theron smiled. He'd always believed the universe held endless wonders waiting to be discovered. Now, with a fascinating new ally and a priceless artifact to protect, he was about to prove just how right he'd been. Trust among the stars. The Stellar Seeker's engines hummed to life as Theron sealed the airlock behind them. His small research vessel wasn't much to look at, but right now it was their only hope of escape. Naira clung to his shoulder, her crystalline form trembling slightly as boot steps echoed through the temple's corridors. "Your wing," Theron said, making his way to the medical bay. "Will standard regenerative treatments work on your physiology?" Naira shifted position, sending rainbow refractions across the walls. "The principles should be similar, though my people heal through resonant energy rather than biological processes." The ship's computer chimed a warning, multiple vessels approaching the temple complex. The scavengers hadn't come alone. Theron cursed under his breath as he helped Naira onto a diagnostic bed. "They're calling in reinforcements," she said, her chiming voice tight with worry. The heart crystal's energy signature will be easy to track in space. Perhaps you should return it and save yourself. Theron gave her a look that made her crystalline form pulse with surprise. Not happening. I don't abandon artifacts to looters, and I definitely don't abandon friends. Friends? The word seemed to catch her off guard. We've only just met. And in that time you've trusted me with your life and your people's most sacred relic. He began calibrating the regenerative field. That's enough for me. Now, let's see about that wing. As Theron worked, Naira told him about her people, the Lumini. They were a race of crystalline beings who had once spanned dozens of star systems, building temples to house their vast archives of knowledge. But their civilization had begun to fade, their numbers dwindling as fewer crystals achieved consciousness each cycle. The heart crystal is more than just a power source, she explained as the regenerative field slowly mended her damaged wing. It contains the combined wisdom of generations of Lumini. In the wrong hands, it could be weaponized. In the right hands, it might save my people. The ship shuddered as weapons fire grazed their shields. Theron sprinted to the bridge, Naira flying close behind, her wing now partially healed. Those aren't simple scavenger ships, she said, studying the tactical display. They bear the mark of the Obsidian Syndicate. Theron's jaw tightened. The Syndicate was notorious for stripping ancient sites of valuable artifacts and selling them to the highest bidder. They must have learned about the heart crystal somehow. Hang on. He threw the Stellar Seeker into a series of evasive maneuvers, using the temple's massive stone columns for cover as they climbed through the atmosphere. Naira hovered near the navigation console, her crystalline body pulsing with different colors as she processed data faster than any human could. There's a plasma storm forming in the upper atmosphere, she announced. If we time it right. We could use it to mask our energy signature, Theron finished, already adjusting their course. But the interference would affect our shields too. It's risky. Do you trust me? Naira asked suddenly. Theron met her faceted gaze. Yes. Then let me interface with your ship's systems. The heart crystal's energy, I can use it to reinforce your shields, but only if we're in perfect sync. It went against every safety protocol to let an unknown entity access his ship's core systems. But as another blast rocked the vessel, Theron realized they were out of options. Do it. Naira's crystalline form began to glow brighter, tendrils of light extending from her body to merge with the ship's control panels. The heart crystal in Theron's pouch pulsed in response, filling the bridge with rainbow radiance. The Stellar Seeker's systems came alive in ways Theron had never seen. Power readings doubled, then tripled. As they hit the plasma storm, lightning crackled across their hull, but the enhanced shields held. Through their shared connection to the ship, Theron felt Naira's consciousness brush against his, alien yet somehow familiar. He saw flashes of her memories, centuries of guarding the temple, watching her people slowly fade away, the loneliness of being the last of her kind on Meridian 6. She, in turn, glimpsed his past, years of solitary exploration, the thrill of discovery, and a deep respect for the artifacts and cultures he studied. They were both guardians in their own way, preserving the legacy of ancient worlds. The Syndicate ships fell behind, their sensors blinded by the storm. When they emerged above the clouds, Meridian 6's twin suns painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. Naira gently withdrew from the ship's systems, her glow dimming to its normal luminescence. That was intense, she said, settling onto the navigation console. I've never shared consciousness with a human before. First time for everything, Theron replied with a grin, plotting a course away from the planet. Though I have to admit, having someone else in my head was a unique experience. You're not what I expected, Naira said after a moment. When I first saw you in the temple, I thought you'd be like the others, seeking only profit and power. But you're different. So are you. I've never met anyone quite like you, Naira of the Lumini. He checked their heading. So, Where to now? The syndicate won't give up easily. Naira's crystalline form shimmered thoughtfully. There's another temple, far from here, where some of my people still gather. They need to know about the syndicate's interest in our artifacts. And... She hesitated. I'd feel better if you came with me. Your knowledge of human space could be invaluable. Just my knowledge? Theron teased, noting how her colors shifted in what he was learning to recognize as embarrassment. And perhaps your company as well, she admitted. It's been a long time since I had someone to talk to who truly understands the importance of preserving the past. As they set course for distant stars, Theron reflected on how quickly life could change. Yesterday he'd been a simple explorer. Now he was racing across the galaxy with a crystalline alien and a sacred artifact, pursued by dangerous criminals. But looking at Naira, seeing her crystalline face filled with hope for the first time since they'd met, he knew he wouldn't have it any other way. Sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't artifacts or ancient temples, but the connections we made along the way. The hidden knowledge. A week of space travel had changed their dynamic in unexpected ways. Theron found himself growing accustomed to Naira's crystalline glow illuminating the ship's bridge during night cycles, while she developed a fascination with his collection of ancient artifacts from across the galaxy. Your people have such an interesting way of preserving history, she observed, hovering over a clay tablet from Earth's Mesopotamian period. Physical objects that decay over time, yet somehow endure. Unlike your crystal archives. Theron adjusted their course around a nebula that sparkled almost as brightly as his companion. Perfect preservation, assuming they don't get shattered. Nothing's perfect, Naira chimed softly, settling on his shoulder, her favorite perch during their conversations. Even crystal can corrupt over time. That's why the heart crystal is so precious. It's not just storage, it's alive. It adapts, maintains itself. The artifact in question pulsed gently in its secure containment unit. Over the past days, Theron had noticed its glow synchronized with Naira's moods, brightening when she was excited, dimming when she dozed. Their peaceful routine was shattered by an urgent alert from the ship's sensors. Multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace, Theron announced, hands flying over the controls. Syndicate signatures. They're persistent, Naira muttered, accessing the tactical display. Wait, these energy readings. They're not just tracking the heart crystal anymore. They're following its resonance frequency. Meaning they've learned to trace its connection to me. Her crystalline form dimmed with worry. I'm putting you in danger just by being here. Theron snorted. Pretty sure I was in danger the moment I decided to steal from the Obsidian Syndicate. No turning back now. A massive cruiser emerged from hyperspace directly ahead, its weapons already charging. Smaller ships moved to flank them, cutting off escape routes. Unidentified vessel, a cold voice transmitted over their comm system. You carry stolen property and a fugitive crystalline entity. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Any chance we can outrun them? Naira asked, though she already knew the answer. Not this time. Theron studied their surroundings, mind racing. But maybe we don't have to. He pointed to a nearby asteroid field. Those rocks are rich in beryllium. The radiation would mask our signals, but it would also interfere with my crystalline matrix, Naira finished. I'd be vulnerable. Weakened. Your choice. I won't risk your life. Naira's faceted eyes shifted through spectrums of color as she considered their options. Then, to Theron's surprise, she laughed, a sound like crystal wind chimes in a storm. My entire existence has been about preserving knowledge, staying safe, she said. Perhaps it's time to take a risk. She flew to the heart crystal's container, placing one delicate hand against it. Besides, I trust you. Theron guided the stellar seeker into the asteroid field as enemy fire streaked past them. Almost immediately, Naira's glow began to flicker. She landed unsteadily on the console, her crystalline form dulling. "Stay with me," Theron urged, navigating through the deadly maze of rocks while keeping one eye on his friend's deteriorating condition. The pursuing ships held back, unwilling to risk their larger vessels in the dense field. They were halfway through when Naira suddenly straightened, her colors pulsing with excitement despite her weakness. "Theron. I'm detecting something. These aren't just asteroids. They're ruins." He adjusted his sensors, and his eyes widened. She was right. Hidden among the natural rocks were fragments of ancient structures, barely recognizable after eons of exposure to space. "There." Naira pointed with a trembling crystalline arm. "That formation, it's a temple entrance. One I've never seen in any record." The structure was massive, easily large enough to hide their ship. More importantly, its walls contained enough beryllium to mask them from the Syndicate's sensors. Theron carefully maneuvered them inside just as Naira's glow dimmed to almost nothing. The moment they were clear of the radiation field, she collapsed into his palm, her usual radiance returning slowly. The heart crystal pulsed with renewed energy, helping restore her strength. "I'm okay," she assured him, though she made no move to leave the warmth of his hand. "Just need a moment to stabilize my matrix." Theron was about to respond when ancient lights flickered to life around them, responding to their presence. The chamber they'd entered was enormous, its walls covered in both crystalline data storage and physical writing. "This is impossible," Naira breathed, finally floating up to examine the nearest wall. "These are Lamini archives, but they're written in human scripts. Look at the dates, this place is over 50,000 years old. You're saying humans and Lamini met before? That we worked together? More than that." Naira's excitement made her glow brighter than ever. "This explains everything, why my people began to fade, why we built the temples. We didn't just meet humans, we helped guide their early development. And then, something happened. Something that made us withdraw from the galaxy." The heart crystal pulsed urgently, resonating with the ancient archives around them. Streams of light connected it to the walls, downloading data at incredible speeds. The Syndicate, Theron realized. They don't just want the crystal's power. They must have discovered this connection, this shared history. And they want to exploit it. Naira's voice hardened. "We can't let that happen. Whatever forced my people into isolation, whatever secrets this place holds, it could be dangerous in the wrong hands." A distant explosion rocked the temple. The Syndicate had braved the beryllium field after all. "No time to download everything," Theron said, checking their exits. "We need to move." "Wait." Naira flew to a central pillar, her light merging with its ancient circuits. "This temple has defenses. If I can just, yes." The entire structure hummed with awakening power. Outside, they heard the sounds of energy weapons activating, targeting their pursuers. "That won't hold them long," she warned. "But I also found something else. A map, leading to the central archive of all Lamini temples. If we can reach it, we can find out what really happened between our peoples," Theron finished. "And maybe prevent history from repeating itself." Naira nodded, returning to her perch on his shoulder. "Exactly. Though I should warn you, no human has visited that archive in 50,000 years. There's no telling what we'll find." Theron grinned as they raced back to the ship. "Mysteries, danger, and ancient secrets. Sounds like my kind of adventure." As they fled deeper into space, leaving the Syndicate to deal with the temple's automated defenses, both human and Lamini felt a growing sense of destiny. They weren't just running anymore, they were embarking on a quest that could reshape their understanding of both their species. And perhaps, though neither said it aloud, they were discovering that the strongest bonds in the universe weren't forged in crystal or steel, but in trust, friendship, and shared purpose. Light of Two Worlds. The central Lamini archive hung in the void like a massive crystalline snowflake, its faceted surfaces refracting starlight in hypnotic patterns. But Theron barely noticed its beauty. His attention was focused on Naira, who lay weakened in his palm, her usual radiance still dim from her encounter with the station's power core. "We made it," he said softly. "Just hold on a little longer." "The Syndicate ships," she whispered. "How close?" He checked the sensors. 2 hours behind us. Maybe less. Director Voss had deployed her entire fleet, determined not to let them reach their destination. The Archive's automated systems scanned their ship, recognizing Naira's Lumini signature. A docking port opened like a blooming crystal flower. Inside, ancient machinery hummed to life, responding to their presence. "Amazing," Theron breathed as they entered a vast chamber. The walls were alive with flowing data, countless crystal matrices storing the accumulated knowledge of 2 civilizations. "Your people built all this?" "We built it together," Naira corrected, her strength returning slightly as she absorbed the Archive's ambient energy. "Humans and Lumini, working as one. Before we had to leave." The heart crystal pulsed urgently in its container. Naira flew to it, her tiny hands pressing against its surface. Light surged between them, and suddenly the chamber filled with holographic images. They watched as the past unfolded around them. The Lumini, coming to Earth in humanity's infancy. Teaching, guiding, helping humans take their first steps toward civilization. And then. "No," Naira whispered. "It can't be." The images showed a massive shape approaching Earth. A living darkness that devoured light itself. The Void Hunger, an entity that fed on consciousness, on intelligence, on the very essence of sentient life. The Lumini detected it first, Naira narrated, reading the data stream. "We knew Earth would be its next target. Humanity wasn't ready to face such a threat. So we made a choice." The holograms showed the Lumini using their crystalline technology to hide Earth, to dampen humanity's psychic presence in the cosmos. They erased their own existence from human memory, becoming myths and legends. "We sacrificed our connection to protect you," Naira said. The Void Hunger passed Earth by, seeing only primitive life. But now humanity spread across the stars, Theron finished. "We're visible again. And it's returning." Naira's colors pulsed with urgency. "That's what the heart crystal was trying to tell us. The Void Hunger awakens. The Syndicate doesn't understand what they're doing, trying to weaponize our technology would only draw its attention faster." Warning signals blared. The Syndicate fleet had arrived ahead of schedule. Theron Hayes. Director Voss's voice filled the chamber. "Surrender now, and I'll ensure your death is quick. The Archive's power will belong to the Syndicate." "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Theron transmitted back. "There's something coming. Spare me your archaeological theories. We're cutting our way in." Naira suddenly straightened, her glow brightening. "The Archive, it's showing me something else. A way to stop the Void Hunger. But..." She turned to Theron, her faceted eyes swirling with emotion. "It would require joining human consciousness with Lumini crystalline energy. Permanently. No one's ever attempted it." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we could merge, you and I, use the Archive's power to create something new. A hybrid consciousness that could reactivate Earth's ancient defenses before the Void Hunger arrives." The chamber shook as the Syndicate began cutting through the Archive's outer layers. "The process could kill us both," Naira continued. "Or trap us forever in crystalline form. I can't ask you to dash." "You're not asking," Theron interrupted. "I'm volunteering." He smiled at her surprised expression. "Come on, did you really think I'd let you face this alone? But your human form, your life, isn't worth much if the Void Hunger devours everything." He held out his hand to her. "Besides, I can think of worse fates than spending eternity with you." Naira's crystalline form pulsed with joy and fear and something else, something that had been growing between them since that first moment in the ruined temple. She landed in his palm one last time. Together then? Together. They moved to the archive's central matrix as the syndicate breached the outer doors. The heart crystal floated from its container, joining them in the crystalline heart of the chamber. Naira's light merged with Theron's consciousness, their minds and souls intertwining as ancient energies surged around them. Director Voss and her soldiers burst in just in time to see a blinding flash of radiance. When it faded, where Theron and Naira had stood was a being of crystalline light in humanoid form, twice as tall as a normal person, faceted surfaces reflecting infinite possibilities. What are you? Voss stumbled back. We are what happens when fear gives way to trust, they spoke in a voice like chiming thunder. When differences become strength. When two species remember they were never meant to be apart. The syndicate forces fled as the new entity began to glow brighter, tapping into the archive's full power. Across the galaxy, ancient Lomini sites awakened. On Earth, crystalline structures that had lain dormant for millennia pulsed with renewed energy, creating a network of psychic dampers that would once again hide humanity from the approaching darkness. But this time, humanity wouldn't forget. This time, they would remember the Lomini, and prepare. Because somewhere in the vast archive, in a form that was neither fully human nor fully crystalline, Theron and Naira remained. Watching. Guarding. Proving that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in weapons or ancient artifacts, but in the simple choice to trust, to protect, to love across all boundaries. Their story became legend, told in 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. The tale of a tiny crystalline being who feared humans would destroy her, until she discovered that the very qualities that made them dangerous, their adaptability, their willingness to take risks, their capacity for change, were exactly what the universe needed. And in quiet moments, when starlight played across crystal surfaces just right, some said you could still hear their joined laughter echoing through the archive. A sound of pure joy, ringing out among the stars like hope itself.